A mochi moment from Mark, who writes, I just want to thank you for making GLP-1s affordable. What would have been over $1,000 a month is just $99 a month with Mochi. Money shouldn't be a barrier to healthy weight. 3 months in, and I have smaller jeans and a bigger wallet. You're the best. Thanks, Mark. I'm Myra Ahmed, founder of Mochi Health. To find your Mochi moment, visit joinmochi.com.
Mark is a Mochi member compensated for his story.
No one's going to rush you into doing it, but please know from someone that's seen it happen time and time again, if you don't put specialist arrangements in place, it can lead to all kinds of financial catastrophe.
G'day, I'm Debra Caldow. Welcome to the Red Giraffe Solutions Expanding Worlds podcast, where we aim to support you as you help your young person with additional needs plan for their future, a future where they're safe, secure, and live a rewarding and fulfilling life. From around the world, I share stories and I share solutions from people making this possible right now. I'm a parent of a young person with additional needs, so I understand the challenges. Many of the people I've interviewed on this podcast have already helped me design a better future for my daughter, and I hope that they might help you as well to imagine what's possible for your young person. When it comes to financial planning, it's pretty worrying how few people have wills and have a clear plan for what happens when they're no longer around. Whatever stats you choose to look at, it's likely to tell you that half the people, wherever you live in the world, won't have a will in place. These are pretty scary figures when you think about the challenges associated with dealing with someone's estate, however small it might be. There's plenty of family dramas based on the who gets what scenario. And if you have a child with additional needs, you'll know that whatever you leave them is going to be an essential part of the future that they have without you. So it makes sense that we plan ahead, particularly when it comes to money and whatever we have to leave behind. But having been through this process of planning for my own demise, I know it's not an easy thing to do. It's not just the action of doing it, it's the thinking about it as well. And the reality is that we have a lot of other things on our minds. And often this is one of the easiest things to put in the I'll sort this later basket. I mean, who wants to be thinking about the worst thing imaginable, not being around to support our children? But honestly, it's probably one of the most, if not the most important things that we can do. So in this week's episode, I'm continuing my conversation with Rhiannon Gogh, who's a specialist financial planner. And we're talking more about trusts, but not about the trust itself, but who to choose as trustees, which from my own experience, I can honestly say is one of the biggest challenges. I found this a really useful and thought-provoking discussion, not only for the information, but as a reminder of what happens when we don't plan properly. But enough from me, let's hear more from Rhiannon. How do we address the people part of this? Who will be a trustee? Is that another challenging area for people?
One of the hardest parts of special needs planning. And one of the reasons actually that I'm passionately advocating for this as a pathway, a recognised pathway within financial planning in the UK, because it is this bit that makes it very different, makes special needs planning different to other types of planning. Because when you're planning for someone like Tristan, what professionals have to understand very clearly is that I'm planning potentially for a time when my son is here and I'm not. So then you think, well, hang on a minute, if I'm not here, who's going to be here? And that's when you start thinking, okay, well, we could potentially have some trustees who are the people that look after the trust fund. Guardians, that stops once the child's 18. Nothing to stop me from pulling in people that I think could be looking after him beyond that. So it's team planning. And it is, without a doubt, team planning that causes a lot of worry. Because you and I know the rigours, there are certain rigours of being a special needs parent. And you think, who else could do that? Who could I find that could do that? And that is a very difficult question to answer. And quite often, and I had a lovely comment from a mum a couple of weeks ago on Instagram, and she said, I've fallen at the first hurdle. I have nobody I can trust with my son. So that's it, that's planning done for me. And you have to kind of wave and say, no. There are such roles like professional trustees that can stand in and step in and help. So team planning, yes, it is really hard. There are certain questions about whether to use a sibling or not. That works in some families and it doesn't work in others. There's a big conversation around that. In our family, I'm not sure it would work. That's complex to think whether a sibling would be there for the rest of that other person's life. I think if you're planning with siblings as a trustee in mind, you've got to think what things could you put in place to support that young person throughout their trustee journey too. And if you're worried about that, perhaps combining it with a professional trustee. So having a sibling working with a professional trustee. But yes, you're absolutely right. It's a difficult question, a really difficult question.
Do you think that sort of combining people that you know with professionals is a good option?
It won't be right for every family. There are professional trustees, so the MenCap trustee company, the MenCap Trust Co., they work as professional trustees. They won't work with other families. They work on their own. And then you have some professional trustees that are groups of solicitors and firms of solicitors that will work with lay trustees like a sibling. And I've seen that work really, really well. But I've seen the sole trustee work really, really well when the sibling says, you know what, I want to be there for my brother or sister, but I don't want to be the one that holds the purse strings. I want to have a sibling relationship, not a trustee relationship. So when that's the case, the sole professional trustee works really well. But yeah, you can combine the two. That works very well. And also, this is a really good tip. You don't have to, if you have a lay trustee, so say you have like a sibling and you think, you know what, they might need help in the future. They might not need help in the future. You do not have to bake in a professional trustee into the trust. Because ultimately, if I died and I've left this trust fund and now my eldest son is looking after it, he could very well get some money from the trust and go and seek advice at that point. He can decide for himself. I don't have to bake it into the trust if I don't want to. So there's loads of different options. But yeah, lay and professional working together works well. Sole professional works well too.
I want to now go back to the beginning almost again. And you're saying that people come to you and they say, I've got all these questions. How do you, and I don't know it's not your job to persuade people to do it, but how do you convince people that you need to do this?
I try not to push the matter because you know what, we're all dealing with our own stuff. At the very beginning, I felt this really acutely. When I first started talking to the National Network of Parent Carer Forums, they were asking me to do courses and go off around the country and do wills and trust seminars and talk to parents. And I felt almost apologetic for bringing it up because you think, gosh, you know, some parents have got so much on their plates and now I'm telling them they've got to do something completely different. It's going to cost them money and it's going to be very difficult to think about. I felt really bad for bringing it up. But I have been fortunate in some respects, and it's unfortunate for the families involved. But because I've been out talking to families for the last 10 years, I have seen every possible financial catastrophe out there. So from stories of a young man who was 18, he was profoundly autistic, his father passed away and left him all of his money. The mum and dad were divorced. And I saw that play out in that the minute that the son received that money, well, number one, he couldn't receive it because he didn't have mental capacity. So he was locked out of receiving dad's inheritance that he left for him. He then, even though he couldn't access it, he was assumed as having it and lost all of his means-tested care placement in his residential home that had taken 2 years to find and put in place. I don't think any parent wants that, and I don't think parents know that that's what happens. I don't think parents know that people are locked out of an inheritance because they might not have mental capacity. And I don't think parents realise that if they don't put special arrangements in place, and if someone dies in the family, you can quite easily wipe out someone's means-tested care. I'm lucky because I've seen that happen, so I feel very passionate about it. What I would explain to parents that come and see me, and quite often I'll get a phone call out of the blue. It will be like, why do I need to do anything different, Rhiannon? What are you talking about? And I will say just this sentence, really. And the sentence that I would say to any parent is that it shocked me to understand that my son wouldn't receive his inheritance. It scared me to understand that because he didn't have mental capacity, he wouldn't receive the inheritance I'd left for him. I was worried about him being vulnerable in receipt of his own money, and I was really scared that he'd lose his means-tested care, benefits and support. If any of those ring true with you, then please know that there are specialist arrangements you can put in place. Just knowing that puts you 10 steps ahead. No one's going to rush you into doing it, but please know from someone that's seen it happen time and time again, if you don't put specialist arrangements in place, it can lead to all kinds of financial catastrophe.
I very deliberately left that last slide in when I was editing this episode, because I think it sums up why this is so important. Because not only do we need to start planning earlier, we need to recognise that there will be different challenges along the way. And I can honestly say that in our planning, although we've got a lot in place, there are still questions that we need to answer. So if I was to say anything to anyone listening, it would be to go and check out Rhiannon's resources. There's links in the show notes. But most importantly, to think about this now. Don't leave it any longer. Because as she says, there's things that you can do now. A letter of wishes, for example. And it isn't always about the money or assets that we will be leaving to our children. It's about other people in our family that might leave something to them. So even just talking to our family is a great place to start. We all want what's best for our children. And what's best for them is that we start to talk about all of this now, not later. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope that the stories and solutions shared on here help you as you support your young person to create their future. If you know anyone who would find the ideas useful, please share the podcast with them. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn at Debra Caldow. I'd love to have a conversation with you on any of the topics we all care about. Bye for now.